Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is Friday, and I want to do this kind of series. I've been doing it for the last month, where I've been giving a challenge to the community. And the challenge is sometimes it's covers, where I say, hey, what is the wackiest cover? And that was the first week. And I wanted to say thank you for the people that accepted the challenge. They basically, to accept the challenge, all you have to do is make a video with the hashtag that I use of that week. And there was a bunch of people that have actually accepted the challenges that I put out each week. Pulp Viking was one of them. And Mark Oldroyd was another person that accepted the challenge in one of the weeks. And there's been a few others. So I really want to say thank you for the ones that have accepted the challenge. And I really made these videos in order to try to encourage people to kind of have fun and show their comics and create this theme where we kind of compete to see who has the best themed comic in terms of each week's theme. And last week's theme was Nazi covers. So basically I showed a whole bunch of covers with like either Hitler on them or Hitler being beaten up or whatever, something Nazi related. And the comic that won, like I always do a poll at the end to find out which comic is the best Nazi cover. And the one I would have chosen and the one that you chose was Hensi. So this is the one that won last week's challenge, Hensi. And it's just a great cover. It's got like all these swastikas going on. Has this super innocent girl on the cover. Like, you know, she's like enamored and she doesn't really realize the evil that is coming. And you got Hitler in the background too. So it's even got a Hitler cover. So this is Hensi from 1973. And that's the one that won by landslide. It was easily the number one comic. Now, this month it's February 2022, and it's Black History Month. So I figured, hey, first week, might as well make it something about Black history. And I really couldn't find good covers for Black history. So I figured, hey, why not do full comics about either famous Black characters or famous comics that kind of relate to being Black or Black characters even. So I figured this would be a kind of interesting Black history top 10 comics that I chose from my own collection. And I'd like to see what you can pull from your collection that relates to Black history. So without further ado, I kind of babbled for 3 minutes. I'm going to show you my top 10 Black history comics. So my first one, I've shown this before, and actually it was in one of the other, I thought it was under the wacky kind of craziest comic covers. And this one I thought was a good one because for Black history, because what it is it's the what if Lois Lane was Black for a day. Okay, and it sort of puts her into the shoes of a Black woman, and gives that kind of story. It's actually quite an interesting story, and I thought it was a really important one where they were really trying to maybe pander a bit to the Black community, but also show some genuine interest in the plight of the Black community. So I thought that was quite interesting. So this is Lois Lane 106, and this is number 10 on my list. I thought it was a great comic. Definitely one I recommend to read. Next is... okay, wait, I gotta find it. Of course, I buried the comic. Oh yes, here it is, right here. It's always interesting. I should have put these in better order. It's this one. And this is America's Greatest Comics, number 2. And it is the first appearance of Steamboat. Now, the reason I put it on this list is this is kind of an interesting character. Because what was happening was America's Greatest Comics, this is Fawcett, and they were trying to really appeal to the Black community. And they wanted to really engage Black readers to enjoy comics just as much as white readers. And hey, why not, right? Get more audience for your comics. So what they did is they created a character called Steamboat. And Steamboat was this character who was kind of the stereotypical Black male. Like, just, spoke with like a bit of a Ebonics element to him. And he was, very good character. He was very like noble character. And, this was his first appearance. So, and it's kind of interesting. The story behind Steamboat is very interesting. It's one of those very controversial characters. He's considered one of the most controversial Black characters in comics to date. So very interesting, loved and hated. And when I bring him up, a lot of my Black audience gets mad at me. So, but don't get mad at me because I didn't make him. But I actually like Steamboat for the many virtues that he had. He didn't have superpowers, but he always put himself in harm's way to protect others. And I see that as something inspirational and aspirational to myself. So I like Steamboat for those reasons. So Steamboat's first appearance, America's Greatest Comics #2. That's number 9 on my list. And you can't have a Steamboat mentioned without mentioning his removal from comics. And that happened in this issue. This is, I'm going to take it out of the plastic, Captain Marvel Adventures number 48. So basically, Steamboat became Billy Banson's sidekick. He was like kind of like, he always helped Captain Marvel, and he helped him. He would do errands for him. He would act like a sidekick. And what happened was there was a school that was an integrated school. And this is back in, this is 1945. So that's quite a while ago. And before, the forced integration that happened later. And this school, basically, a lot of the Black students and some of the white students didn't like Steamboat because he did have a lot of the stereotypical things that really they felt didn't reflect the true character of most Black people. And they wanted something, they wanted to get rid of him, basically. So they did a letter campaign, and Fawcett listened and decided to remove Steamboat from any future issues of Captain Marvel. So this is the last issue, and I think it's historically significant because it shows that whether you agree with it or not, the fans, and this in this case, Black fans, really got to decide what they wanted to see in comics and how they wanted to be portrayed in comics. I think that's really important. So I think that's the fact that it happened back in 1948 shows how progressive comics were even at that time. That they were willing to listen to the fans and really show that they were aware what would kind of like I lose my train of thought the way I say this, but really they didn't want to upset their fans, and they actually made the character to pander to the Black community, and having the opposite effect, that's not what they wanted. So they really did want to make things right with the Black community. So I think that's interesting. Okay, so they were listened to back then, is the point that I'm trying to make. Very awkwardly so. Okay, so next on my list, and I was thinking I should show some, it's Black History Month. I should show some Black characters, major Black characters. Well, I thought this one was a good one to show. It's a new Luke Cage. He's had a TV series. Actually enjoyed Luke Cage. I think it was a good series. So this is his first appearance. Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, #1. So kind of a cool comic. Got that real 70s vibe going on to it too. And it's from 1972. Really great comic. Archie Goodwin story. Okay, so that's that was number 6 on my list, or 7? Number 7. 9, 10, 9, 8, 7. Yes. Okay, so next black character is Blade. Now, despite what people have said about Black Panther, Blade was actually the first character, black superhero, that had a major movie. And he didn't just have one movie, he had 3 movies. So, from Marvel. So, Blade is a very important black character. And the cool thing is that he's not one of those characters that was originally white and they made black. He was a black character from the beginning. And this is him on the cover right here, Blade, number 1. Blade, Tomb of Dracula, number 10. His first appearance is what I meant. And Blade is actually a really interesting character. I really loved the movies for Blade because he's like half vampire, half human. And he sides with the humans in terms of his allegiances. And he's very powerful as a result. So he's a very cool character. I really enjoy Blade. He's, kind of a badass. I really like Blade a lot. So that's Tomb of Dracula, number 10. That's number 6 on my list. And you can't have big, famous black characters without mentioning one of the biggest characters that actually launched a whole franchise. So not only is this a character that is major in terms of him being a black character, but he's a character that actually launched a whole franchise. So, like, about this one character. And what I'm saying is the character of Spawn. This is Spawn's first cover appearance. I figured I could show my Spawn number 1, but I figured this is a more cool book for Spawn. And Spawn launched Image. It was really Todd McFarlane, his use of Spawn that really got people into collecting Image and reading Image books. So, I would say Spawn is a pretty major character. He's had a movie. He's probably going to get another movie someday whenever they get around to it. But he is definitely a major black character, and I think he's a very interesting character. And the story behind Spawn is it's an interesting story. There's a bit of backstabbing. There's like that fall from grace in terms of him going to hell, basically. And it's interesting story. It's very, he's got dimensions to him. He's not just some two-dimensional character. He's got some depth to him, and I really enjoy Spawn. I read the first 20 or so books of Spawn back in the day, so I really enjoyed Spawn. Okay, so those are some. Now, obviously, I'm gonna put another major character later on the list, so you'll see that. But I figured I'll show this book. This is number 3 on my list, and this is Crown Comics number 3. So appropriately, number 3, and it's number 3 on my list. Now, this shows a very odd depiction of a black character on the cover, but this is a major historical book for black history. And it's historical for multiple reasons. First reason, it was a black artist who did the artwork for this book, Matt Baker. A famous artist, awesome artist. We all love him. He's great artist. And he created the first black hero. Not superhero, but hero. And that's Vuda. And Vuda is not this guy. This is not Vuda. He's sort of like this African guy who basically, saves, his village and stuff like that. And this is just like some evil, witch doctor. And that's why they depict him this way. It's not that they're trying to be racist or anything like that. It's that they're purposely making him look evil and weird because he is supposed to be evil and weird. One of those misconceptions that a lot of people see this as a racist cover. It's not. It's actually intended to make him look like an evil witch doctor. Okay, so that's one of those misconceptions. So Matt Baker did all the art for this, and he created the first black hero, which is Vuda. So this is back from 1945. Great book. Okay. Now another great book, and it's one that the cover doesn't do it justice to how great it really is. And it's a great book because of the story. And I've mentioned this book before in previous videos, and I think it is historically significant to especially Black History Month, is this one, Weird Fantasy number 18. And basically in it, it really has a very interesting story, and I'll give a quick synopsis of it, where this man, like, it looks like an astronaut, and he lands on this planet of robots. And there's like two types of robots. There's like, I think it's blue and orange, I believe, are the two colors. I forget the two colors. But they're two colored robots. And basically the society is dominated by one of them, and the other is sort of subjugated. And what happens is the astronaut that's there is he basically seeing whether or not this planet is worthy of being part of like this intergalactic society. It's kind of like the United Nations of the universe. And he deems them not ready because the way that they subjugate the other robot, the other colored robots. And the only difference between the two robots is their sheathing, like their, you know, everything else, all their components are the same, just that one has one color outside and the other has a different color outside. So, and that's all that makes them different. But one is treated really poorly and one is treated really well. So it's kind of interesting how they dealt with this topic of racism. And at the end of the comic, though, at the end of the story, it's the most interesting part because he denies them entry, but he says, you know, work on it and maybe someday you can change your ways and become a better society and you can join us. And he flies off, and when he leaves, he takes off his helmet to kind of reflect on the planet below. And you see that he's a black man. So it's kind of like this really, really poignant story that really captures that whole concept of racism. And, you know, it's a golden age story from 1953. So really great story. Okay. And the last one, and this is kind of obvious. I kind of mentioned this book earlier, but this one is Black Panther. And this is Fantastic Four 52. And it's just a really great book. Great cover, too. You got Black Panther, you know, the moon in behind him, and he's jumping down on the Fantastic Four, and he's just, you know, he's just an awesome character. And Black Panther is one of the most successful characters of all time, believe it or not. You know, his movie did extremely well. And, you know, this book is, in my opinion, highly undervalued. But that aside, he is the first black superhero. So I mentioned Vuda is the first hero, but he is truly the first black superhero. And, you know, the fact that they didn't really have a black superhero until 1966 is kind of disappointing, but it is cool that he, you know, he truly is, you know, the first black superhero. And he kind of brought in the whole concept of Wakanda, you know, and whether you agree with Wakanda or not, it is an ideology that is kind of cool in a way. It's like this idea that there's this super advanced society in Africa. And, you know, a lot of the time we think of Africa and we think of it as a backward thing, but to have this ultra advanced society. And it really shows the time when this was made, because they're really trying to embrace the black community and really show that they didn't think down about the black community at the time. They, like, a lot of the stuff that we see nowadays is really pandering to in a negative way. Like I hate the way that they make movies nowadays in a way with black characters. And it's not that I don't like black people. I love black people. Many of my friends are black. I just don't like the way that they portray black people in movies now, because they're always perfect. They're not flawed. they're you know, they're just so one dimensional that it's just not interesting. But what was interesting about Black Panther was that he was multi-dimensional, and generally when they do the one-dimensional things, it's like almost like they like, oh yes, yes, of course you're perfect, yes, yes, yes. You know, it's kind of like, it feels like real pandering. It feels like they're really just, they don't really believe what they're saying, and they just make black people look good to make them look good. Whereas this series was not that way. They're actually saying that Black Panther, in many ways, was superior. Was you know, he comes from a superior society. He comes from this way more advanced society than you know, European or North American society, and you know, and that was kind of cool. You know, that it wasn't about pandering at that time. It was, well, maybe a little bit, but it was a different type. It was just the way that they made the character was much more interesting. And yeah, so I really do love this book, and that is number one on my list. First appearance of Black Panther in Fantastic Four number 52. So what do you think about my list? Are you ready to accept the challenge? Now, to accept the challenge, you just have to use the same hashtag that I used in the title of this video, which will be Black Comic History. Hashtag Black Comic History. So hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the challenges that I do each week. I recommend you check out the other week's challenges. And they're all interesting. Like, I try to make them fun. I hope you enjoyed this one. Happy Black History Month. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.